Expecting black women to take the moral high ground in response to the alleged passing of a man who joyfully terrorized and willfully degraded black women for years is gaslighting at best and abusive at worst. And that was tweeted by Demetria L. Lucas. Hello everybody and welcome to Tuesday's episode of the Toya Talks podcast. I am your host as always, Toya Washington, and this is a brand new episode. This is actually a dilemma episode. I did post on my social media handles that this week would be a dilemma episode, and anybody who has any dilemmas and wishes to share it and have it addressed on the podcast to write in. And we do have a couple of dilemmas. There is actually one dating back April that ended up in our junk mail, and then when it was sent to me by my assistant, it ended up in my junk mail, so I've only just seen it. However, there are a few other dilemma episodes, and we're going to get into that. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, which is, of course, a Toya Talks dilemma episode, we call the dilemma episodes, What Would Toya Do? And that's what I'm going to entitle it. And that's what we're going to call the dilemma episodes going forward, just so it's clear that it's a dilemma episode. So there are a lot of people, specifically men, who are really not having a great week. Crypto's down, so my husband is very quiet at the moment, like he's mourning. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I got an alert from cryptocurrency. I was like, okay, crypto ain't doing too good. It reminds me of in the summer when crypto was doing quite badly, and there was just this period where all the men were on Clubhouse and they were literally like offloading their upsets at how bad crypto was doing, and I feel like we're kind of there again. That being said, also a lot of these narcissistic, well, not all of them, right? Not all men, but a lot of men who kind of are slightly narcissistic, and a lot of men who are, pledge their allegiance to Kevin Samuels are currently in mourning because Kevin Samuels has unfortunately passed away. God rest his soul. Now, kind of in the spirit of the opening quote of this podcast, I do want to talk a little bit about Kevin Samuels and kind of what has happened since the announcement of his passing. Now, first and foremost, I'm just going to put my hands up and say this. I'm a very spiritual girl, and I believe in my ancestors. I speak with my ancestors. I do a lot of ancestral work, and I speak about it all the time. I'm really proud of it. And that means also I have a heightened understanding of passing, people passing, going on to the spirit world and things like that. And I will be the first person to tell you there is no joy and celebration in anybody's death, okay? At the end of the day, Kevin Samuels is a brother, a son, an uncle, a cousin, and he belonged to a family. So first and foremost, I think we do need to give dignity and respect to the dead. However, there has to also be a balance of kind of his impact in society within our community. Now, those of you who do not know Kevin Samuels, who must be under a rock, because honestly, Kevin Samuels kind of was thrusted into the limelight with about 2 years ago, and his impact within our community has been one that you cannot ignore. At the end of the day, he spoke about things that rightly or wrongly caused conversation, and he provoked a lot of conversation about relationships and his really unhealthy attack of black women and the comparison of black women with other women from different cultures and ethnicity. And it felt like a concentrated attack on the integrity and the makeup of black women, who we are, what makes us who we are, and how we function. And almost the comparison was to degrade black women. And he had his show on YouTube, and let me be honest with you, I have never been a Kevin Samuels fan, because you cannot attack black women, and for me as a black woman, I feel attacked too, and that's on period. You cannot talk about high value man or being a high value man, and you are not standing behind what you are preaching. It's like when people talk about, oh, I'm going to be like the relationship guru, and they're telling you all the things about relationships that you should watch out for, the red flags. They're telling you about what the type of guy they'd go with, and they're talking about date nights and how they go on dates and what they expect. These times they're contradicting everything, and before you know it, we've got a video of them confessing and spilling their guts of all the things they should have done that they preached to you about a week ago that they haven't done for the last year or two, and they've found themselves in a toxic relationship. And then you just think to yourself, hi, hypocrite, when are you going to start living by what you're preaching? And this is why I say to you guys, you need to be really, really careful the people you look up to. Because for me personally, you cannot talk to me about being financially free. These times, you've run up all your credit cards. These times, you can't even get credit, but you're coming to preach to me about financial freedom when you're not living in financial freedom to be able to teach me. I want to learn from people who are practicing what they preach. Do you understand? There are so many YouTubers right now on social media that scare the shit out of me because they have such impact and influence, especially in our community. And what happens is they live their life in silence, right? And in silence, I'm talking about is they live their life in a way that is so far removed from social media and what they're talking about. And what happens is they get burnt. And the trauma of that experience forces and propels them back to come and confess on social media. These times, they have put out years of content about how to find the right man, how to do this, how to be financially free, how to do all of this. And then we get a U-turn with no apology or explanation. And therefore, as Black women, we have to also be careful about the information that we are assimilating. You need to look at the people who are giving you this information on 1 week, and in the second week telling you they're not living what they're preaching to you. Do you understand? And this is kind of how I see Kevin Samuels. Now, there are still a lot of detail coming out about his death. Now, they also released the audio of the woman who was with him when he died, and she called 911. She's actually a nurse. And that audio has no place on social media. So why that's even been released, I do not know. It's giving very sinister vibes, and I'm not here for that. But that being said, he was with a nurse, and allegedly they were doing what adults do. And he basically fell on top of her, and I think it was cardiac arrest or whatever the situation was. She tried to resuscitate him. He died on top of her. The irony is he died on top of a nurse who he has no respect for, because he would then go on his platform and talk about high value. And a nurse for him would not be high value, but she was high value enough for him to keep company with. She was high value enough for him to share his self with. Do you understand? But she's not high value enough for him to respect because of what she does for a living, and I think that's disgusting. Because the irony now, it was her trying to save his life. He was in a hotel room with this woman. He was, when he talks about high value man, you genuinely will close your eyes and think, oh my God, he's living this high value life. And actually, what we have come to realize, and I think all of us started realizing it in the beginning anyway, was like, this man is like divorced, he has a child, and all those things are common, they're normal. Like, that's not a big deal, but he doesn't categorize those things as high value, but that's who he is. So my thing is, how can you talk about high value men if you are not high value? How do you know what's high value? Well, because you keep company, but you yourself are not high value. And by your own barometer, you're not attracting high value women. So how are we doing this? And the worst part of it, the bit that pissed me off the most, I think this angered me the most, was when he did one of his YouTube videos. And basically, he was comparing Black women to Latino women, and basically saying that Black women, you're losing your Black men to Latino women because of XYZ, XYZ. And what made me feel sick and made my stomach turn is how he's pit off two women, Black women and Latino women, against each other. And then he thinks that he will then garner the support of Black women by saying that. Now, don't get it twisted. There are some women that came onto his show that are delusional. Absolutely delusional. And I have every understanding of being honest and being frank and straightforward about the expectation of women who are not where there's certain women who expect a man to be a multi-millionaire on 6 figures. These times you're on minimum wage. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So you have to cut your cloth according to your size. That's not to say that because you're on minimum wage, you shouldn't be with somebody who's on 6 figures. But the reality is your ability to attract that 6-figure man ain't it, sis. It's not going to happen. So what happens is the years go by and you remain in that delusion, and then you become pissed off, angry and resentful because then you feel like you're not good enough. But you haven't put yourself in a situation for yourself to place yourself in the company of high value men. Do you understand? I know how I started. I started on my council estate. I started with my electric key, topping up on the emergency. That's how I started. I can't then start at that position and then be looking at a six-figure man. These times, I don't even have 6 pence to put on my electric card or to put on my electric key. It doesn't make no sense. So from that perspective, I agree with Kevin Samuels that there has to be a realization of where you are, what you're doing for yourself, and therefore what you expect from others. But what I can never ever fathom, understand, and accept is how Kevin Samuels, a black man, derives some type of sick joy and pleasure by degrading black women and using us as a joke, as a caricature for the elevation of his platform. That's what I can't stomach. And the worst part of it is you can tell some of these women that are on his show and they're speaking, you can tell they're quite young-minded. You can tell that they're still developing into the adults they're supposed to be. And I feel like there could have been a bit more care, a bit more understanding in his delivery. Say the truth, be straightforward, don't mince your words. But you have to take care in your delivery. You can't have a flat rate delivery for everybody, because at the end of the day, these women are coming to you and they're coming with a level of delusion. So why you are then using it as a rod to whip them is, I don't understand. And whenever he had non-black women on his show, he showed a little bit more empathy in a way that he has never shown black women. And the bit that I couldn't understand and it didn't make sense to me is, you are in your condo apartment in this small room, yeah? You're wearing your suit and you're sweating. You're sweating, bruv. You're sweating, yeah? Your glasses are so far on your face. You're sitting there and you are recording in your humble studio space, whatever. And you have the audacious audacity to tell a black woman she ain't shit. But you ain't shit yourself. And you are not sitting there coming from the perspective of, I'm trying to educate my black women in my community to be better. You're coming at it of, you're attacking black women. And whilst you are saying certain things about black men, you're not using the same vim. You're just definitely not using the same vim. But the same high value that you're talking, preaching, advocating, you're not part of the high value club. You're not part of the club. So I don't even know how you're even trying to get in. I'm not even trying to understand. And the irony of him dying how he did and who he was with is, it's testament to the fact that, listen, no matter what you do for a living, you make an honest living, you work hard, you want better for yourself, that's enough. And you have every right to want greatness and want good and want all the things of milk and honey. Just because you are not, quote unquote, the definition of what he would consider high value doesn't make you less value. It does not make you less value. Now, those women who do not drive, for example, I'm just giving an example, you don't drive, yeah? You don't choose to work. You work when you like because you don't like working, and you are just lazy, you can't expect to attract a six-figure man, because what a six-figure man isn't going to do is put himself around you. You may put yourself around him, but he's not going to put himself around you. So first of all, you have to get into his spaces. And I feel like society has elevated to a point where everybody's asking everybody what you're bringing to the table, irrespective of your gender. And if, as a woman, all you're bringing is your vagina, I'm sorry, but that's not really going to be enough. Okay? Vaginas age as well. So let's have that conversation. But that's not always going to be enough. And this is why on my platform, I always advocate for the elevation of us as black women to be better, to be subject matter expert, to understand how we're going to navigate these white spaces to attain our greatness. And I focus on us first because we are underrepresented, often overlooked, but also as women, we need to get our own. We need to get our own. So that when you then meet that man, or you've met that man, what you bring together to the table is a lot. Do you understand? I am never I'm never advocated for relying on a man. I don't rely on my husband. Do you understand? What we do is we bring together and we elevate each other. There are certain characteristics Kay has that I don't have. There's certain characteristics I have that Kay doesn't have. When we come together, we equally complement each other. There's going to come a point in my life where I'm going to have to take a step back from my career. And I still will not be reliant on Kay. What I will do is look for covering. But when it comes to relying, you should be self-reliant. So that when you do meet somebody and you come together, there is an equal exchange of life, equal exchange of benefits, equal exchange of energies and spirit. What we need to come away from is the idea that if you meet that 6-figure, 7-figure guy, your life is transformed forever. Not all of you are going to meet your Ronaldo. It's not going to happen. What's her name? Georgia Ronaldo. I saw it on Netflix. Homegirl was I think she was working in Dior. That's where she met Cristiano Ronaldo. Now she's a multi-millionaire. She's coming to tell us about how her life has been a multi-millionaire. Baby girl, you're working for Dior. But even take that example. She was working in a space where she was possibly going to meet people like Ronaldo. Do you understand? She was in them spaces already. My thing is, Kevin Samuels weren't even in them spaces. This is what I'm not understanding. His come up has come from the bashing of black women. That's where Kevin Samuels' come up has come. And our backs as black women are tired. How many more men are going to verbally abuse us, degrade us, mock us for the advancement of their career? And as black women, we then have to see that and exist in that. And then they add to the fight that we have to do in society, because you think there's not white men or non-black men and black men themselves listening to him and agreeing with what he's saying and then coming to spew that rhetoric on Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces or Life Spaces. It's disgusting. Even one of my family members, there's a particular family member I have. He is a Kevin Samuels disciple. The way he speaks to his partner, I had to tell her, I said, you know what? You're doing this to yourself. You're allowing this to happen, because as he's speaking to you this way, he's not even a high value man himself. You are more high value than him, because I know the value you came to when you came into this family. He ain't shit. He ain't even the high value that he's preaching. So as he's following like the diligent disciple, darling, and talking to you like you're a piece of shit, you need to understand something. Without you, he has no value, because he didn't bring any value other than his penis to the relationship in the first place. I said it about my family member. I don't care. I said it. And she's there shocked. And my brother's like, well, at the end of the day, you know, the problem with you women is that you're negative. That's the problem. No, I'm not negative. The only thing that is negative is your bank balance. I ain't negative, honey. I'm just telling you the truth. You cannot talk to your wife like she's a piece of shit, because Kevin Samuels told you today that she's a piece of shit. These times, Kevin Samuels ain't in a relationship with no one. He ain't high value, and we ain't even seen his bank balance to understand the barometer of value we're placing on his alleged high value. And yet, you're sitting in my face disrespecting your wife, who has an opinion about a man that bashes women. And then on top of it, you admit that you're not high value. So what are we really talking about here? Because he's not even telling you what you need to do to be high value. What has he told you what you need to do to be high value? Because if he's telling you, then I need to understand when he took his own advice, because he ain't high value. So Kevin Samuels is confusing black men in this society. He is confusing, and now he is dead. You guys are even more confused because your crypto has gone down as well. So it's a bad month. May is a bad month for men, especially black men. It's a bad month for you guys. What you need to do is hit the factory reset. That's what you need to do. Hit the factory reset and start putting things into perspective. Because the way black women are leveling up, the way black women are doing level up, the way black women are understanding our value. Some of you black men, or men in general, some of you are in trouble. Because when you're coming with your inflated egos and your deflated penises, you're not high value. And we will use our mouth to remind you. We'll use our mouth to remind you that you're not high value. and to give us the criteria of high value so that we can use it as a tick box exercise for you. Even the ones that are considered high value, some of you have devalued yourself because you're unwilling to look yourself in the mirror and admit the reflection that's looking in front of you. Some of you refuse to go and get therapy to deal with some of your issues. So when we're talking about high value here, let's look at it holistically, because high value also starts from the mind. High value is a mindset as well. Yeah, you need to deal with that past trauma that happened when you were young to start elevating your mind to high value. High value is not just quantified on money. If you think high value is just money, you've got a problem, because how are you then going to maintain that high value if it's just money? Because isn't there a high value on multiplying money, maintaining self, mental health? We need to start redefining what high value is, because you know what Kevin Samuels has left? He's left, number one, he's left a legacy. The legacy he has left is in 2 years what he's been able to do, and we can't ignore that, rightly or wrongly. But he's also left a trail of destruction and broken men. He's left some broken men behind. And if these broken men are looking to us as black women to piece them together, our value is not high enough apparently. So you better go and take yourself to either Quick Fit or take yourself to Timpson's and go and get yourself sorted. And then afterwards, get a referral to the doctor to refer you to a therapist. You guys need to sort yourself out. And you know, men, I don't really come for you like that, but I'm coming for you like that. Because some of you are not okay. But a lot of you listening to the podcast, you need to reevaluate your minds. Reevaluate your minds. Reevaluate your minds. You're talking about who pays on the first date, second date, third date. Let me tell you something. If a man is talking about who's going to pay on what date, I question how he's going to feed you in a relationship and feed himself. A man that can't even pay for your food, you can't pay for your food, what is waiting for you in a relationship is called hell. Hello? Because food is a basic requirement in life for sustenance. So if we're having a debate about who's paying, you're going to be having a debate about every single aspect of your relationship, because he is not mature enough or high value enough ding, 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 to have mature conversations about things that are important. We're talking about who's paying for food. So some of you men, you guys need to hit the factory reset. I know a lot of you are in mourning. There's a lot going on this May. And this is 22-ing. Okay? What is shocking for me is that a man so controversial, I think he was like 56 years old. It's so sad that he just passed away. And for me, I need an autopsy. I need to understand what's happening, because this is very shocking. Now, whilst he is a very controversial character, he brought conversation to the forefront. And you know what he did? He flushed out some of these toxic men. Because what happens is when they were congregating on Clubhouse, they were just showing their pants and their nyash. And it's important that some of us see that and hear it. So we know the type of conversations we're having with these men. So we know the type of conversation we're having on these dates. And we're able to understand, actually, is this the man that I want to build with? Is this the man that I want to grow with? Some men can't grow because they're so broken, they're unwilling to understand what they need to put themselves together. And I am so tired as black women that we continue to allow these men to use our backs to stand up. Listen, you see me? I am no longer tapping in or engaging in debates with men, whether you're black man or non-black man. I'm not entering debates about your masculinity and the requirement of what it takes to be a man. If you don't know what it takes to be a man, go and do some research and go to therapy and deal with the foundation of what you understand manhood is. And let's start from there. Thank you. Ooh, that was a long one. Anyway, moving on. Since we're talking about the topic of men, I watched the Tim Westwood documentary on BBC iPlayer. I'm going to be honest with you. There was nothing I saw there that shocked me. And I think I may have even mentioned it slightly in the last episode. But I feel like what has transpired as a result of that is quite telling. Because had Tim Westwood had this fascination and fixation on white women, he would already be in prison. We talk about us as a community of black women. Black women are the least protected in society. And I think that's what the Tim Westwood documentary highlights, demonstrates, and is an example of. Tim Westwood has apparently stepped down, or I believe he has stepped down from, is it Capital Extra or whatever network he was with. But the irony, and it's not even the irony, you know what it is? The randomness of it is he gets to step down. And I need to understand, is he stepping down on full pay? Why wasn't he sacked? Why is it that white people and their privilege allows them to make the choice to step down rather than feel the ferocity of society's decision to no longer facilitate your warped, disgraceful, and disgusting behavior? And then, you know, I'm not here to bash women. That's not what we do here. But what we do here is tell the truth. Lynn May's comments, and I'm not repeating her comments because they were so troublesome. And the fact that Lynn May was confident enough to go and tweet that shit is problematic for me. And you know why it's problematic for me? Because I don't believe she is a genuine person. I believe she's part of that society of people who feel like they're being controversial, and all it is attention seeking. Yeah? All it is attention seeking. What she said was so detrimental that I don't even think she has the capacity in mind to fully understand the impact of what she said. But what I am proud of us as a community is we held her foot to the flames, foot to the fire. We were like, no, we ain't having that. And she was dragged the fuck out on Twitter. She was, you know what, she was dragged. How can she even have the effrontery to tweet that shit? And you know what? Some people say, some people aren't a girl's girl. And in this situation, it's not even about being a girl's girl. Do you know what it's about? It's about common human decency. That's what it's about. That is what it... Listen, as a community, we know about Tim Westwood already. Listen, I will never forget when I went to a rave in central London. And I was in uni at the time. So I'm assuming like I was probably first year uni, because that's where I was raving, because I had the freedom to rave the Ross. And when I was in uni, I did look quite like, I was just very immature, you know. Obviously, you know, you're finding life. And I was just very like excited just to be out and have freedom. And I went to a club and Tim Westwood was DJing. And I will never forget, I was dancing, I was minding my business. I wasn't one of those people that would like, you know how you have certain people that would like hang around like the DJ and ask him to play songs and that. I wasn't really that person. Not like there's anything wrong with that, but what I'm trying to say is I was such a vibes girl. Like I just wanted to vibe. Like I wasn't really into the whole who is popular. I wasn't really that person. And I just remember, for some reason, me and my friends were near the booth. We were just near the booth. There was a lot of people. The way Tim Westwood looked at me, I felt sick. It was this look, it made me nervous. It unnerved me. You know what I mean? Like it made me feel some type of way in the pit of my stomach. And I just knew that we weren't staying to the end of this rave. In my opinion, I just didn't like the way he looked at me. Like it unnerved me enough. I just remember feeling like I just didn't want to be where I was standing. And I said to my friends, oh, let's go on to another club. And when I look back and I think about it, I just didn't feel comfortable. And anyway, we ended up going to another club. And that's what I loved about my friends. We never left each other alone. We always went to the toilet together. No one was ever left on their own. Like we were always together all the time. So, you know, in that situation when I said I wanted to go, I never really had to explain the reason. We were just on a vibe. So for us, it was like, how many clubs can we do in a night type thing, you know? And yeah, so there's always been rumours and it's not just rumours. It has been corroborated accounts of Tim Westwood and what he's done and how he's done it. And it's all alleged, of course, because obviously in this country, unless you've stood trial and everything, have been found guilty, it's all alleged. But we as a community understand what the word alleged really means. So I'm really happy that that documentary happened. I'm really happy that it is there, it's out there. And now universities need to be very smart about who they and what they do next. And the smartness I'm saying is put the health and safety of black women first. Stop booking this man. How old is he? He's like 65, isn't it? Or is he 64? Like, at some point, he needs to retire. He needs to put the turnstiles down. The turntables down. You know, there comes a point where when you hear something and you continue to hear it, you take a stand. Why does there have to be a documentary for you to now decide that you do not want to book him anymore? When these times people have been protesting, people have been writing in, people have been telling you about this man, but you're still booking him. And it just needs to stop now, you know? So let's see what happens. Even though as a community, I would have expected him to be brought in for questioning. You know, like, there are so many more women who have so many more stories about him, and I hope he faces justice while he's still alive. We don't want a situation where he dies and then suddenly then there is a report that's done, and then suddenly all this evidence is now what the police are relying on to find him guilty, but my man is dead and 6 feet under. Like, how are we still doing that? Why can't people face justice while they're alive? Because if it's white people get the justice while the perpetrator is still alive. But as black people, we're not given that same energy. We're not given that same opportunity. And there is a need to see justice while the perpetrator is alive. There is a need as a community for us to see that. We need to see it. We need to see as a community that justice is also afforded to us as a community. Because the way it seems now is justice is only afforded to a certain type of people, certain demographic. And that in itself is very dangerous, because it is like telling white people that you could do what you want to do and justice is not afforded to black women. That rhetoric is so dangerous, and this is the reason why we need to see justice while people are alive. We do. And I'm not confident or comfortable that this documentary will bring the justice that we need as a community. I doubt it very much. And the thing is, I don't know what is required for us to see that justice, especially with the Tim Westwood situation. He's protected. And the worst thing is he's protected by, or has been protected by, black men in the music industry. He's protected by white privilege. He is protected by the powers that be. And it shows you the strength of those powers. That still till this day, he's not been brought in for questioning. The police have not brought him in for questioning. Off the back of that documentary, even just off the back of the accounts of what these black women have gone through, nothing. And I just pray that he sees justice while he's still alive and while the victims are able to watch him in the pursuit of that justice. Okay, so this is a dilemma episode, and what I will say is I haven't actually had the time to go through all the dilemmas before the episode, so a lot of them I'm seeing for the first time. I just know that they're in my mailbox, and my assistant has been so kind in making sure that she put the ones that I need to read in the mailbox. Now, if your dilemma has not been read out, they will be read out hopefully within the next week or so. Obviously, we have a certain time for each episode, so I'm trying not to do 2-hour podcasts, because for me personally, I don't listen to 2-hour podcasts. I have to break it up, and therefore we just need to make sure that when you're sending these dilemmas, you're straight to the point. Tell us what the issue is, what resolution you're seeking. Stick to the facts and keep the emotion as much as possible out of it, so that we're able to help you here on the Toya Talks podcast. So I have a dilemma here, and it reads: Hi Toya, hope you're well. Sorry for sending you a voice note earlier. Here is an email briefly summarising a few concerns and queries I have. 1. Can I ever be respected and in a position of authority with my white colleagues without having a white man or woman in a senior position having to introduce me first? 2. I'm sick of white women talking to me anyhow. Anyhow, where is the respect? It's like they don't understand they're talking to the firstborn daughter of a Nigerian and Jamaican household. Sorry, guys. And then point 3. It's got to the point where I feel like cussing at least one different person every day, and I'm a very patient person, but because they don't respect me, they're coming to me with stupidness. And point 4. On top of all the above, I have 3.5 years industry experience, which should translate to a senior job title and salary. But instead, after all these years of experience, I'm on a junior account executive salary and in a supporting role. The fuse has blown. I think I'm one trigger away from blowing up at this point. Cost of living is rising and I'm working like a donkey for peanuts. Then on top of that, dealing with white British girls and their lack of understanding and violence. I know I'm strong, but it's too much at this point. Thank you for all that you do. Okay, so I'm going to take each section at a time. First and foremost, thank you for sending this dilemma in. And you did send me a voice note. And in that voice note, you did say to me that you know that dilemmas are supposed to be sent to the mailbox. But you, and I'm paraphrasing here, but you needed to get it out. That's why you sent me a voice note. And that's unacceptable. I've already done a podcast episode. I've spoken about my boundaries. I've already done a podcast episode where I've been really clear about dilemmas. But the thing is, you also need to have boundaries for yourself and you need to respect my boundaries because I have to protect my own mental health. And this is the reason why, in order for me to fully serve my community and to fully help you, you need to respect the mechanism that I've put in place. Yeah? We're not, you don't know me, we're not friends. So sending me a voice note, you don't know whether I'm in the car, you don't know if I'm on my way to a hospital appointment, you don't know if I've fallen down the stairs, you don't know my situation. But yet you needed to put that on me and make it my issue. And that to me is unacceptable. So let's respect the boundaries here and let's not do that again. And that's out to everybody. Don't be doing that because that's not cool. You know, my friends, it's different. Like I know them. They know me, we know what's going on in each other's lives, and even they do not send me voice notes like that. So let's not do that, yeah? But I am happy that you took what I said and then you emailed at your dilemma in, because now I'm able to see what the issues are and hopefully do my best to answer your dilemma. So your first question is, can I ever be respected in a position of authority with my white colleagues without having a white man or woman in a senior position having to introduce me first? Do you listen to the podcast? Because that question alone tells me you don't listen. And from your voice note, you are an avid listener, but you're listening, but you're not receiving the messages. So maybe what you're doing is you're hearing the podcast, but you're not listening to them. Yeah? You're working in white-dominated industries. And the reason why you think white senior people need to introduce you is because you're not confident enough to introduce yourself. I'm really sorry to say this. No, I'm not actually. I'm not sorry to say this. If you expect a white person to introduce you, how does that happen if white people don't even see you? They don't see us, honey, and they don't respect us. So how exactly do you expect them to introduce you? Listen, that's why I say that whenever, like, I come to this podcast from a position of experience and what I'm going through. Do you understand? And what I've gone through and the learning lessons. I'm a contractor. So I go to new places all the time. And I don't wait for a white person to introduce me because they don't even have the range to introduce me. They don't have the range to introduce me. That's my mentality. You don't have the range. The only thing you can introduce is my name. But me, I'm responsible for how I introduce myself in organizations, to teams, and to people I don't know. Do you understand? That's my job. I'm going to give you an example. So I've started a new assignment and I'm here for quite a few months in this particular assignment and I'm trying to figure things out. I'm doing my due diligence and my boss is really sweet. I'm trying to figure her out too. I'm doing my due diligence and I even shared this last week. This is what I'm saying. Like I shared, this is why I say you're not listening to the podcast. You're not. And you need to come out of your emotions and you need to go to a state of learning in yourself and listen to the podcast from a position of learning. Take some notes. Because I didn't have a podcast growing up. I didn't have that. I was hot stepping on the job. I was hot stepping in the emotion. I've been through shit. I didn't have a podcast that I could listen to where a podcast is talking about the elevation of black women in the world of work and how to navigate. I didn't have that. You have it and you're not listening to it. So I was in a meeting and I was ignored. I had to introduce myself by telling them the right answer to a question where they was going round in circles. There was a meeting that was even held today. A classic example. Now, I'm the type of person, when I go into a meeting, I don't go into a meeting where I've not met anyone and say, hi, my name's Toya. I'm not that person. I'm really not that person. I'm just really quiet. Because for me personally, if I'm in a meeting and somebody is in that meeting that I've never heard of or never seen, I would say, oh, hi, Toya. I've not seen your name before. Are you new to the organisation? I would do that. But the thing is, when white people see us, they see our names, see our picture, see our face. They don't want that. You understand? Already they're thinking, what are you doing here? So if I know that already, I know how to now position myself. So we had the meeting today. Yeah? And they're going round in circles in this meeting today. Sorry about that. They're going round in circles in this meeting today. And then I said, okay, this is what I would expect to see in a contract. This is what I need from you. Da 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 da. So there was 3 women on this call plus me. One woman, she knows who I am because we've had email exchanges before, like last week. The second woman knows who I am because she's quite involved in my contract and from a financial perspective. So I had to loop in with her. But the third woman doesn't know me. This third woman and I will have to work together. But she was speaking to every one of those women apart from me. It was deliberate at this point. Then one of the women said to the woman that was ignoring me, oh, have you not met Toya? And this is the woman, no, I haven't met her. Well, of course you haven't met me because you didn't even introduce yourself. You didn't say anything and you've just been ignoring me. So when the colleague said, oh, have you met Toya? Da, da, da. And she goes, no, I haven't met Toya. I was like, oh, allow me to introduce myself. That's what I said. My name's Toya and I'm a consultant and this is the projects I'm working on. And therefore you will have to work closely with me. I didn't say we will have to work closely together. I said, you will have to work closely with me because that is the way I'm asserting myself. You will have to work closely with me to deliver X, Y, Z. So hopefully we can come together and deliver the success of this project. That's why I said it. My boss wasn't on the call introducing me. The 2 women on the call know who I am. They didn't introduce me. Sometimes you have to learn how to introduce yourself without being abrasive. You know, there's a way people will introduce themselves and it's abrasive, it's aggressive. It's like, hi, I'm here, and they're ripping their bralette and their singlet. No, I don't do them things. I introduce myself by leading with knowledge. Because whether you like it or not, you're going to have to gain the trust of the people you work with. And the trust I'm talking about is that what you say holds weight. And that's a normal thing. That's not even race related. In order for you to garner respect, what you do has to have weight. And how it has weight is how you bring yourself across. You understand? I am a subject matter expert. You don't even need to know that. You just need to know that I know what I'm doing. So when you're going round and round and round in circles, I'm listening to you. I'm picking up. This person don't know what they're doing. This person's confused. This person is great at what they do. This person is this. And for me, I always go into an organization or a team thinking I need to get some quick wins. Because if you get the quick wins, that's how what you do and what you say holds weight. Because that person, even if it's for a short time, will know you got a quick win. And one thing about me, whether you're perm, temporary, contractor, I have a feedback folder. So I have an evidence, a catalogue of my quick wins. So in the future, if I have to rely on it, because we know that a lot of non-black people have very short-term memories when it comes to us, I'm able to tap into that feedback folder to remind you of the quick win and to legitimize the way in which my recommendations and my position holds. So when you say to me, position having to introduce, when you say, can I ever be respected and in a position of authority with my white colleagues without having a white man? Well, in order for you to be in a position of authority, you have to be a subject matter expert. It works hand in hand. You can't not be as a black woman. The thing is, with white people, the rules are different. They're not subject matter experts, but yet they'll have authority because of white privilege. We don't have that. So for you, my dear, you're going to have to reevaluate that. Yeah, and you have to reevaluate your mind. Because if you want to be able to be successful and define what success means to you in white spaces, your mindset has to change. And unless it changes, you're going to stay angry. Because the title of your dilemma is, I'm about to become the angry black woman and I can't wait because I've been pushed. I don't understand. Okay, you've been pushed then, and what happened? And what happened? The second point, I'm sick of white women talking to me anyhow. Where is the respect? It's like they don't understand they're talking to the firstborn daughter of a Nigerian and Jamaican household. They don't give a shit. Me too. I'm the firstborn daughter in a Nigerian household. Did it stop that man in my last assignment from sending abusive emails? Did it stop in my in one of my roles? Well, when I was at Goldman's, was it Goldman? Oh yeah, I think it was at Goldman. It was either in Goldman or one of my other roles where the man threw the paper at me and I got a paper cut. They don't give a shit. Listen, you could be a queen back home, but when you're in a white man's country, he just sees you like every other black woman. You understand? So you see this, you're doing broad shoulders. They don't give a shit. Because the same way that you think that they should respect you, they think that you should respect them too just because they're white. You need to understand something. White people in white dominated industries don't have no respect for us. What they have is violence. You understand? If you want respect, you have to create the boundaries around yourself to garner that respect. And even then, they're still going to test those boundaries. You see, with me, I gotta be honest. I don't give them opportunity to disrespect me because I don't lead from a place of respect. I lead from a place of knowledge. What you're gonna do is you're gonna respect the knowledge. I don't need you to respect me. Because you see that white people's respect is very fickle. I don't need it. I can't cash it in. It ain't gonna give me long life. It's not gonna increase my pension or my savings. That their respect ain't gonna do shit for me. What they will do is respect what I do. You're gonna respect the authority in what I do. I'm a senior. You're gonna respect the knowledge that I bring. Because I feel like it's easy for them to do that more than to respect us. And I'm okay with that. Because I'm not trying to join their club. Because when you say, I want them to respect me, do they not know I'm a first bon gang? If you were to even ask them, you'll be there for 10 years and ask them what country you're from. They will tell you the stereotype country that they think you're from. They don't even take the time to get to know you. So why do you think they're going to respect you? My question to you is, what are you going to do with their respect? Why do you need it so much? Do you think that their respect legitimizes your position in that organization or in your role? You know the real question I want to ask you. Do you have a little bit of imposter syndrome? And I'm serious, I'm just being genuine. Because we've got a podcast episode where I talk about imposter syndrome. So you need to go back and listen to it. And if you do have imposter syndrome, that is the bit that you need to deal with. And that's more about us than it is about them. That imposter syndrome comes from not feeling regarded, good enough. And it also comes from a position of, am I supposed to be here? Because if you're talking about, do they not respect, the fact that they're not doing that is what's probably triggering some imposter syndrome. Because if you probably feel like if they knew who you were, they wouldn't do that. No, they don't care. It's a simple fact. I feel like if you're going to be in white spaces, there's a certain level of mental strength that you need. And some of it comes from also going into therapy. I think anybody in the world of work, in white dominated spaces, needs to go to therapy, even if you go just once, because you need perspective and you also need to decompress from a lot of the violence that we see, a lot of the macroaggressions. And for me, the worst is the microaggressions, because the macroaggressions are easier to prove. The microaggressions are somewhat subjective, but they're not subjective to the point where it's in our heads. It's subjective to the point where as a community, we get it in a way that another community wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? Your third point is, it's got to the point where I feel like cussing at least one different person every day, and I'm a very patient person, but because they don't respect me, they're coming to me with stupidness. It's not that. It's not about respect. What is it about respect that is a big issue? Like, it's a big issue for you, and I'm not undermining or I'm devaluing that respect. But what I'm trying to say is, what is more important is the respect that you show yourself. Yeah? For me, I feel like, you know, when I go into any organization, yeah, and remember, as a consultant, I go to several. It is my job to be on top of my game. So when I talk about being a subject matter expert, let's recap. There are courses that I have to do. When I say courses, like, you've got to remember, yeah, I'm educated to master's level. But there are subsidiary courses that are out there, like, the art of commercial contract management is a course. There is other courses that I have to go to, because for me, I still have to stay on top of how the commercial space in contract management is evolving. So to keep my finger on the pulse, I need to go to them courses. So for me, that's me showing respect to my craft. You understand? And then I take the knowledge and use them as transferable skills at work, in my career. So for me, it's less about the respect and more about the respect I show my craft. Because when you show your craft respect and then you go into these organizations and you are evolving as the subject matter expert, then you're feeding into certain things. People will respect and give weight to what you're saying because you've done the work outside of the world of work. Does that make sense? This respect that you need so much, where does that come from? What is it about where you are now that is triggering these emotions? That's the bit that you need to deal with. Because if you're looking for the answer within white spaces, that is a dangerous place to look for the answers, where people don't want to see us. That's not where you look for those answers. So when you said you're ready to cuss people out, then when you finish cussing people out, do you go to job centre with your P45? No, you're not. You're not going to cuss them out because you know what the consequence is. So my thing is, rather than focus on white privileged people in these white dominated industries that we're in, you know that you're not going to change their mindsets. I no longer talk to white people about race. I don't do that shit because I understand that a lot of things are indoctrinated into them. I'm not going to spend my time doing that. I'm going to spend my time being the best I can be in what I do. I'm going to spend my time in defining what success means to me. I'm going to spend my time to make sure I reach the epicenter of my career. I'm going to spend my time making as much money as I can doing a career that I love. I'm going to spend as much time educating myself so that I'm better than everybody in the room, so that when they're walking around and talking in circles, I'm able to go there and say, actually, it's done like this, it's like that. And I'm calm about it. Because I know when it comes to my career and what I do, it's not about them, it's about me. And the reason it's about me is because as far as I am concerned, in order for me to be successful in a white-dominated industry, I have to just be better than them. And the other stuff, like respect, the other stuff, like acknowledgement, is by the by. It's part and parcel of where I sit in the world of work. Because when you go into the world of work, there are certain things that are byproducts, but certain things that are important. Like, for example, being acknowledged. Bonuses are being acknowledged. But how do I make sure that I place them in a position where they have no choice but to at least consider the bonus that they quote unquote see as discretionary? Well, I have my feedback folder. I've got my burn folder. These are all things that I have introduced to the podcast to help you to cover yourself. And the rest, my dear, is up to you how you use those things. A lot of what you pick or should pick from the podcast are transferable into the world of work. They're practical things. A lot of what we discuss, a lot of advice that I give, a lot of life experience are transferable into your organizations. The due diligence that is required to survive in the world of work, You are the one that has to do the work by listening to the podcast, by taking the learning lessons and using them. All this emotion that you're giving here is great because at least you're standing in your truth. But what you need to do is go and deliver it to a therapist and work through it. Because when you go into the world of work, it's game time, baby. The last point you said is, on top of all of the above, I have 3.5 years industry experience, which should translate to a senior job title and salary. So why hasn't it? Why hasn't it? Why is that the responsibility of anybody else other than you? You've got master classes there. Are you waiting for those senior jobs and the senior salaries to drop on your lap? Open the door. That's the senior job and a salary. It don't work like that. It ain't easy as that. I've given you like the blueprint. The whole podcast, each episode is a blueprint. Like, I've given you workable masterclasses. Do you think that I got to where I am in my career, the level I am, because my experience should have translated into something? Or is it because I was proactive in making sure it translated? When I was a permie, my dear, my years of experience should have translated into senior role and senior money. I'm training people, and then I'm finding out the same people I'm training that has less experience than me, less educational background than me, are getting paid at least 80% more than me. I had to sit down with myself and have a bit of a conversation, babe. I said, in order for me to progress, I need to become a consultant. I need to contract. I need to get out of here. Perm ain't for me. Do you know that in terms of my career trajectory, it exponentially transcended? It's taken me from the point of being a perm to now being a consultant. I've been a consultant now for what? I think it's coming up to 5 or 6 years now. Probably about 5.5, 6 years. To get to a level of seniority I would have never seen if I stayed as a perm. And that's not for everybody. But what I'm trying to say is you have to take your career into your own hands. I've got an episode, very first episode of the Toya Talks podcast. Your manager is not the key to your success. You are. And until your mindset changes, you're gonna stay as you have defined yourself here as becoming the angry black woman. You're going to be becoming one, because you're going to feel like you are deserving of something that is not coming to you. But as black women, we have to take. You've got to take. But instead, after all these years of experience, I'm on a junior account executive salary and in a supporting role. Those are your choices. Because that 3.5 years to me is not just 3.5 years. That's 3.5 years of sweat, sacrifice, education. That is a lot of time. It is. It's not. Some people may say, oh, it's not. It's a lot of time. It's 3.5 years more than some people who have never actually worked before and have just gone through the education system and are looking for their first job. That's how I look at it. So my question is, how do you multiply those 3.5 years to become a senior and earn a senior salary? You need to start committing to your career. You're not committing to it. What you are doing is you're committing to somebody else creating opportunities for you, and that's not going to happen. The greatest opportunities are the ones that you create for yourself. I got an email today, and it was the CEO of a company, and basically he's looking for a managing director of commercial contract management to come and introduce it, embed it, create it within his organization. And he, asked HR to reach out to me. I don't know how he even knows about me, but until I have the conversation, I'm not going to know. The reason why I'm telling you this is when I was going through my career, and my career started cleaning toilets, because we've got that episode. I've shared that with you. You know where I've come from with this. I never thought in my wildest dreams I could be any type of managing director. Never. until I started committing myself to my career and defining what success means to me. So when I got that email, I'm going to be completely honest with you, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't surprised. I haven't responded. That was this morning. Because I'm not interested in being a managing director of somebody's company. I'm not interested in them things there. That sounds like a commitment I'm not ready to have, honey. I am a career consultant and I love it. But you know what I am going to do? I'll happily have that interview. I'll happily have that conversation. But I'm not going to take it. And the reason I'm going to have that conversation or interview or whatever the case is because knowledge is power. I'm happy to get the knowledge. I'm happy to understand what is going on in your organization, in the industry that's affecting you as much that you need to go to market to find this person and you're offering that title of manager. I want to know so that it feeds into my next move in my career. Listen, if you want me to come there as a consultant manager director, let's talk about it. But I've set boundaries and perimeters of engagement with myself. I am a consultant. I don't want a perm role. You know, I've defined why I don't want a perm role. And I am doing the work to be better and become an even more seasoned subject matter expert. So I'm not easily distracted by big titles. I know what is important to me. But you have to afford yourself you need to be kinder to yourself. And you need to be kinder to yourself in understanding that you may have been in this industry 3.5 years, but what that translates into is dependent on what you translate it into. That's your job. I have episodes where I tell you you're your own, you're a brand. And the way you're branding yourself is not great here. The fuse has blown. And I think I'm one trigger away from blowing at this point. Okay, blow then. When you blow, you'll cool down. The cost of living is rising and I'm working like a donkey for peanuts. Okay, so what are you going to do about it? The cost of living is astronomically diabolical. It's scary, is what it is. I walk around this house putting lights off. I walk around this house. Like, for me, when the postman doesn't come, I feel relief because that means there's no bill today. We're all living in that cost of living crisis. Every last one of us are feeling it. No matter where your pay bracket sits, your tax bracket sits, we're all feeling it. But I shouldn't say after COVID because we're still in COVID. But since lockdown and we are in a pandemic, if you haven't learned how to be resourceful in your career, if you haven't learned how to pour into your career so that you extract milk and honey instead of peanuts, then, my dear, you need to go back to the drawing board. You need to go back there. If you want to be successful in your career, you have to define what success means to you. You need to come out with a plan and you need to be proactive in the execution of that plan. That is your job. So when you're coming to write this and you're coming to send a voice note, I'm always going to tell you, you are responsible for your own success. No one else, because no one else owes you shit. If you're choosing to navigate white spaces, then you have to then make a decision. You have to resolve yourself to something. That you are the key to your success. You are the one that is going to have to put yourself in spaces so that you do attract the senior titles and the senior salary. If you want respect in your organization, then what you have to do has to carry weight. You have to be able to introduce yourself with your knowledge. You have to be able to introduce yourself without seeking. Because you know what you're asking. In asking someone else to introduce you, you're seeking validation. That's what you're doing. You're seeking validation from white people. The same white people that you say that they're giving you peanuts, you're seeking validation. So do you think that if they introduce you, people will respect you? That's not how respect works. Do you think that when they introduce you, then they're validating you? That's not it, babe. You are the only one that can do that. The only thing someone can introduce is your name And even then, they don't owe you that. Let's move on to the next dilemma. Good morning, Toya. And she's called this dilemma, they are dumping extra workload without extra pay. I hope you're doing well. Your podcast is amazing and I'm so grateful for it. I pray God will continue to bless you, just as you've been such a blessing to others. I have a dilemma at work and would really appreciate your advice on how to handle the situation. My manager is leaving the organisation next week, Friday, May the 13th, and most of her responsibilities are going to me now. For context, I have only been at this American tech organisation for 2 months as a recent uni grad, and since she is my manager, this means I'll be taking on tasks that she gets paid way more to do. They've told me that I'll be doing some of the tasks myself completely, and for some, I will receive help from others across the organisation who aren't in my immediate team. My immediate team consists of me, my manager, and 2 interns who will be leaving in July. So soon, I will be the sole member of my team until they find a replacement for her. That's called leverage. That there is called leverage, as in your leverage. I feel this is grounds for me to ask for a pay rise. It's not grounds to ask for a pay rise. It is the reason for a pay rise. Have you listened to have you watched the masterclass about how to negotiate? The negotiation masterclass? I can tell by this you haven't. I already believe I'm getting paid less than everyone with my role title in the organisation. Yeah, you are. 100%. My concern is that because it's only been 2 months, I feel like they will gaslight me and say that they are looking for my manager's replacement so that this extra workload won't be forever. Well, that don't make no sense, because even if you've been there for 2 months, they still think that you could do the work. So if they want to put the work on you, being there 2 months is irrespective. Do you understand what I mean? If that was an issue for them, they wouldn't give you all the work. So you being there for 2 months shouldn't be the reason why you don't ask for more money. Ask. You've got leverage. You know what leverage translates into? Power. Do you know what power translates into? Bargaining. You know what bargaining translates into? A higher salary. I've already been thrown into projects without training, and many of the responsibilities I'm gaining I have not been trained for. Well, welcome to the working world, darling. I've been told to reach out to members of the organisation that can help me with this training, which should have been my manager's job. No, your manager is not responsible for your training. You are. Your manager's job is not to train you. Please come out of that mindset. Because if you think your manager's job is to train you, you'll be waiting all your life. Who trained your manager? Listen, the greatest training is the one that you get on the job. Nobody trained me to be a commercial contract manager. No one trained me to be a senior commercial contract manager. No one trains you, darling. You train yourself. This is my first permanent role out of uni, and I feel so overwhelmed already as a new starter and feel like they're dumping everything on me and throwing me in the deep end without the proper training and direct support. You know, the empathy I have for you is that this is your first role out of uni, and that's often quite daunting. I remember my first role out of uni, it was a lot. I was expecting work to be like how it is in the TV shows, and it was nothing like that at all. That was a crash landing. One thing I'm going to say to you is, people rely on ignorance to take advantage. And this is what this organisation is doing. It's not personal, darling. It's cost savings. If they can get you to do all the work for whatever they're paying you, it's cheaper for them to do that than to hire somebody else to do the work. There's no incentive of them to hurry up the recruitment of the replacement of your manager if you're doing the job. In fact, they save money the longer it takes. That's the truth. So my thing is this. Number one, it's not grounds for you to ask for a salary. It is the reason to ask for a salary increase. And that is a conversation you need to have. You need to listen to the negotiation masterclass on the toyatalks.com website. That's the first place you need to go. Because you need to understand how to position this to get what you want. You have leverage. You have so much of the leverage. You have it more than them, because knowledge is power. You have the knowledge, you have the expertise, and you have the range to be able to take on additional responsibility. That's why they're giving it to you. So if that's the case, they have to pay for it. I understand that understanding how to navigate the world of work is really daunting, because they don't teach you that in the education system. They teach you to learn and retain information and to regurgitate it in exams, and they teach you those type of skills, but not the skills that you're going to necessarily need in the working world, like the social skills. You're not taught that. You learn it on the job. You get burnt. You're listening to certain things that happen to other people. But then you've got the Toya Talks podcast. So this is equipping you to be able to deal with this in a way in which I feel like if it was given to me when I first came out of uni, I would already been a director 5 or 6 times over. Do you understand? So what I'm going to say to you is, you need to go into the show notes of certain podcast episodes. You need to listen to them. They are going to gaslight you, but you already know that. So again, that's leverage. You need to turn this situation around, because I feel like if you're able to achieve certain things, this will boost your confidence and this will stand you in good stead for your next role. The fact that you're able to sit here and say, Toya, this is what they're doing. The fact that you're even aware of it is a win, in a way in which for some people, it will take them a long time to understand that this is a situation where potentially they're being taken advantage of or are about to, but you're very well aware. It is also quite frustrating that you've come straight from uni and you don't have a support. So when you say training, I think what you're really saying is support, because the training's in the job. So what I'm going to ask you to do is the support that you're going to need. If you know that it's intrinsic to your role, you need to make it clear to them when you have a meeting with them to talk about your salary. And this meeting about your salary needs to be with somebody quite senior, including HR. If I was you, I would have it as an informal meeting first, followed by an email. So it's clear what you expect. Even how you've broken down this email, this is how you would do it in your summary email after your initial meeting with them about a salary increase. If they do not want to give you a salary increase, then they can't give you more responsibility. But it's the way you phrase it to them that will get them to understand that to whom much is given, one has to expect more money. Your desired outcome would be for me to get a raise and change in my job title as a result of the extra responsibilities they're placing onto me. If not, I will highly consider leaving, since support and training and management have been appalling. Thank you for your time and everything that you do, and looking forward to your response. You've answered your own question. You see, this desired outcome is what you need to put to them in the meeting verbally and in the summary email after your meeting. And I don't think anything you said here is disproportionate or unreasonable. I think it's very reasonable. You can't give me added responsibility and not pay for it. No, it's not cheap. The cost of living is rising. Me too. In the summary email, I even write that the cost of living is rising, and therefore, if you're expecting me to take more responsibility, then my pay has to reflect that higher responsibility, and also have to respect the current commercial space. That's why I write. You're confident in yourself that you know that you could get another role. So then you need to turn this around and have this as a career win for you. Because what this will do is, if you turn this around, you're able to get a title change and a higher salary. When you're going into a meeting and they're asking you a question about, how do you feel about an organisation that's not necessarily going to give you training, but on the job training, you could say, well, my last role wasn't giving me training, and actually the training I received was on the job. This is what happened. I'd been there for X amount of months. My manager left and I was tasked with XYZ, and this was the result. And this is what I achieved. This has to be your benchmark for the example that you're going to give in the future about how you have been able to take responsibility and been able to deliver in a highly pressurized environment where you don't have a lot of support and you're hitting the ground running. Now, I don't like the term hitting the ground running, but they're forcing you into that position. If they're going to force you in that position, then they have to pay for all the equipment that you're going to need to run. That's how I look at it. Yeah? Hopefully that helps you. Please, 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 please. The first dilemma that I gave advice on, please, the dilemma that I've just read out, please pay attention to the first dilemma as well. And also just go into the show notes of past episodes, but go and get the masterclass, because I feel like I don't want you to go into a negotiation ill-equipped. In order for you, you've got leverage. You've identified what that is. But how that then translates into a conversation for more money and a total change is going to be dependent on how you position it. Yeah? So good luck. Let me know how that goes. So next dilemma. It's called a huge thank you. Hi Toya, I hope you're well and having a lovely bank holiday weekend. I just wanted to thank you for your podcast episode, My Mistake. I'm grateful for all your episodes, but this one in particular definitely resonated with me and my current situation at work. To cut a long story short, I made a few mistakes at work, which I rectified, and I was vilified by my manager for weeks on end. This eventually took its toll on my mental and emotional health and led to a therapy session outside of work where I broke down for almost 15 minutes. Turns out I had very negative associations with the word mistake, relating to a few things that happened to me some time ago. I decided to hand in my resignation a week ago because I could see things getting worse. I've been in my role for over 3.5 years with absolutely no opportunities for growth or a promotion whatsoever. Now I definitely see the importance of project managing your career and setting objectives so you aren't overstaying your welcome in an organisation. I actually realised this during lockdown and had started to look for new jobs. I think I had reached a point where I was just tired of it all really and decided I needed a new beginning. I totally understand why you tell your community to listen to the episodes more than once. I travelled prior to handing in my resignation and listened to the My Mistake podcast episode twice on my trip, so I could really take the lessons and also remind myself that I'm human and there's nothing wrong with making mistakes as long as you learn from them and rectify them. I plan to take a career break for a few months, reset and plan my next move. My priority is healing from the trauma that I have endured whilst I have been an employee of this organisation. Also, I want to use this time to take control of my career and figure out what success looks like to me, something I have also learned from the podcast. Thank you for sharing your experiences from the world of work with the Black community. All the best. What can I say? What can I say? Winner, 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 winner. We Black women are winners. Hey, winner, 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 winner. We Black women are winners. Honey, you are a winner. Do you know why you're a winner? Because you took control. You've taken control. You see, now that you've taken control of your career, I promise you your next move may be one of your best. You've taken the situation into consideration. You've looked at it holistically. You made the choice to remove yourself from that situation, but you've taken the learning lessons. You're now dealing with your career as a project. You've listened to episodes more than once, and now you realise that you need to self-care in a way that removes yourself from your career for a moment before returning. There's a strength in that. That podcast episode that I did, My Mistake, is a very, very important episode. Very. Because I think the toxic way in which society depicts Black women as, that's number one, but then having to place us in a situation where we feel that we can't make a mistake is problematic. Because like you rightfully said, you were vilified in a way that I know your white counterparts can never be vilified for a mistake, especially one that they then rectify. Never. Our mistakes as Black women are polarised because of racism, because of the fact that Black women are made to feel that at any one moment our jobs can be taken away from us. So the idea of making a mistake is so far removed from what we as Black people are willing to accept is possible. But the reality is, whilst you're a human being on this earth, you are going to make mistakes. And also, if you don't make those mistakes, how are you going to learn? The position and the view should always be is, I never willingly want to make a mistake, but if I do, the most important thing is that I own it, I try and rectify it, and I try and find a solution. White people do not have this same consideration. They don't have to worry about mistakes. They don't, in the way that we as Black women do. Our white female counterparts do not think of mistakes this way. They see mistakes as a way of life, in a way that black women are not made to feel like that. We're made to feel like we have to be perfect to be accepted or to be considered. It's not going to work. This is why when I did that episode and I said to you guys, I made a mistake and I told everybody about it in my team. I did. Because I want them to know that when I cut, gold doesn't pour out of my veins. Blood does. Like them. The only way you're going to be treated as though you're also a human is if you make human mistakes too. And if you're going to be vilified for a mistake, that means you're going to make another mistake quite quickly. Because being vilified puts you on edge and gives you anxiety. It makes you feel as though you are the worst person ever. I remember when I was a bit younger and not really understanding the dynamics of the world of work, and I made a mistake, and I remember this mistake because it was to do with an email that I'd sent to somebody who I sent it basically to the wrong customer. I felt so sick I couldn't sleep. I wanted to resign. I even made inquiries about how to reapply for benefits. At the time it was called Job Seekers Allowance. That's how bad I felt. Imagine feeling so bad about making a mistake that you inquire about having to sign on because you know that you'll have to resign to remove yourself from having to deal with the emotional responsibility of that mistake because you know they're going to make that mistake feel like the worst thing ever on earth. If you haven't already, can you go and re-listen? Everybody listen to this episode. That's listened to this episode. Could you please find the time to re-listen to that episode called My Mistake? Because it's a really important episode. It's so important. You're going to make mistakes. And anyone that vilifies you for the mistake, that's a problem. It's violent. So I'm really proud of you. I'm proud of you for listening to the episode twice. I'm proud of you for taking the learning lessons and applying it into your situation. And I'm really proud of you of the way you've taken care of your self-care. So well done. And congratulations on your new chapter, because it's a new chapter that you're entering. And you're being kind to yourself. And I love that for you. So the final dilemma is called Unfair Dismissal Dilemma. Hi Toya, I hope you're doing well. My name is beep beep beep. Sorry, I can't say that. And I'm based in Ireland. Thank you for your platform and helping black women. I am ever so grateful. My dilemma is I was fired from my job on the 13th of April. I started on the 25th of March. And on the 9th of April, I had a meeting with my manager and salon owner regarding concerns they had with me. I sent them an email on the 11th outlining what was discussed and how I would aim to improve, and also request a follow-up meeting in 2 weeks for feedback on my performance. When I went back to work, my email wasn't acknowledged, and since I started working there, I felt like I was felt a target on my back, being the only black woman and being new to this career path. For context, I'm a registered nurse and recently retrained as an anaesthetic, I can't say this word, anaesthetic nurse. I can't say this word. They knew this and agreed to train me as they needed an anaesthetic nurse in the salon. The day I got fired, the salon was dead quiet. I was doing everything I was asked and more. I went on my 1 hour lunch, and after 30 minutes got a call from the reception asking me to come back. The manager said that I wasn't a good fit, and since the meeting on the 9th, they saw no improvement. Following on from this, the manager said I wasn't a good fit for the salon and that she would rather I get my stuff and leave now. According to the employee handbook that we didn't receive, I just took pictures of the book when I was at work. This isn't the correct procedure for dismissal. I asked my manager for a formal letter stating grounds for dismissal. I emailed her regarding the same, and the email I got only stated my probationary period was unsuccessful. Going solely based on what was covered in the guidelines for disciplinary hearings and termination of employment, they didn't adhere to any of the 3-step warnings disciplinary procedures. I wasn't given a 1 week's notice period they offered to pay me in lieu instead. Toya, I do not want to go back. and work for this company. I don't want the job anymore at all. What I want is for this to never happen to another woman who looks like me in that industry. They didn't even give me a proper fair probationary period. I will be seeking legal action against them on the grounds of unfair dismissal. I appreciate your advice that you have given have to give me, and look forward to hearing from you. So, first of all, you have no grounds for unfair dismissal. Okay, a couple of things. And I feel so bad because I know that... okay, first of all, I need to apologise, yeah? The probationary masterclass that I was supposed to do, I haven't uploaded it on the website, yeah? I've had a lot going on and I committed to doing it and I just haven't had the time. And I have to apologise because I feel like that probationary masterclass would answer everything. And I feel so bad because I feel like I have a lot on my plate and I do a lot of things. And sometimes I don't have a lot of time to do certain things. And I take pride in the masterclasses. I love the fact that the feedback is always great. And I feel like because I'm so hard on myself, unless it's perfect, I don't put things up. But in not putting things up, I understand as well how I'm not feeding enough into my community. So I'm really sorry. I don't want to make a promise, but it's coming and it will come and it will be worth it. And I know it will be. So I need to apologise because I feel like if that probationary masterclass was up, I could have just sent you there and it would have answered everything for you. But since it's not there, I render an apology to everybody who's listening about the masterclasses that are supposed to go up and they haven't done. Also as well, I did receive an email from the company who basically host the platform for my masterclasses and they're actually closing down. So I need to find a new host. And I've got a couple of meetings this week that Jennifer has set up for me to find a new host because this company is closing down. And hopefully what I'll then be able to do is re-upload my masterclasses. And anybody who has bought my masterclasses, Jennifer will reach out to you and give you new links to the new platform. Because I've made a commitment that if you buy a masterclass, you can watch it forever. You know, you buy it once, you watch it forever. If you buy it once, it's one license. You can't even share it with other people. Other people have to buy it. Do you understand? So there's a lot of stuff that's happening in the background. There's a lot of work that I'm supposed to be doing with brands and I just haven't had the time. I just haven't had the time to go to these brands. These brands are giving me checks and I just don't have the time. So I need to be better with my time. I need to be more disciplined with my time. I've got a lot going on. Plus a wedding, just moved house. God knows the list is endless. So I have to commit to getting those masterclasses up. And you know me, once I focus on something, I get shit done. So first and foremost, you have no grounds for unfair dismissal because you have to have been working for a continuous period of 2 years, or it must be a strict liability offence. And it's neither one of them. Secondly, when you're on your probation period, it's governed slightly differently to when you pass your probation period. Organisations are very smart about probation periods, and a lot of them say in their offer letters, you have only passed your probation when HR confirm in writing that you've passed. Yeah? So until then, you're still on probation. Now, there is a benefit to that too, because with probation periods, the notice period is slightly different. So you'll find that during a probation period, a notice period could be a week or 2. Whereas if you were past your probation period, the notice period may be a month or 3 months or 6 months. But during your probation period, they can fire you immediately. It would be in the probationary section of your contract. It gives them a lot more powers to get rid of you without following a certain procedure. Because during the probation, what people don't realise is that organisation is on probation with you and you are with them. It's mutual, but it's made to feel like it's one way because it's about power. And organisations want to feel like they have the power over you during probation, when in fact it doesn't really work like that. If you wanted to leave within a week and you give them notice, you could do the same. The reality is this: I can't sit here and say you didn't handle your probation properly because I feel like you've given me very high level. But you're working in an industry, I get from you, that, you know, whereby it's heavily white orientated and therefore quite biased. You never want this to happen to another black woman again. But the reality is, in order for it not to happen to another black woman again, excuse me, or anyone again, a lot of things have to change in the approach to probation periods. I feel like it will be clear in the masterclass, but I guess in order for me to address your dilemma, what needs to be clear from me to you, you've got to take the learning lessons and you have to move on, because there's no recourse here. This is what I always say to people. When you get the knack of passing your probation, you're probably in the best position to then deal with things like this. But outside of that, and you're in a probation period, you're in a very precarious situation, very vulnerable, because the rules are different contractually. And also, there is a limit of what you can do if you are fired. Because saying to somebody you're not a good fit is a justifiable reason if they can prove that you're not a good fit. And they can prove it here, because they would have gathered enough evidence. The mere fact that you sent them an email saying all the things that you're going to improve is an admission of whatever they said that you weren't doing. And that admission is evidence. Evidence that they can prove is the reason why you haven't passed your probation. They should have given you a criteria of how you would pass your probation. There's a way to manage your probation, to put the responsibility on the organisation and therefore the burden of proof on them if they were to sack you. And it puts them in a very difficult situation. I've passed every single probation I've ever had when I was a permie, bar one situation where I was extended. When I was extended, I then decided to leave and they were shocked. They were shocked. And I talk about it in the masterclass because the learning lessons from that was amazing. It transformed the way I saw probations. So I think we have to kind of, what do they say? We have to chalk this up or write this up as a learning lesson. And I understand that it's now created a trauma there. It's now created a negative experience for you there. That now you're going into maybe a next organisation, you're going to have this heightened state of anxiety about your probation period because you're going to feel very vulnerable. But what I want to reassure you is the learning lessons that you've taken from this situation would mean that you won't make the same mistakes again, or you won't allow the same situation to manifest in the same way. Could you please, I'll get Jennifer to reach out to you, because when the probation masterclass comes out, I will like you to watch it. And I feel very guilty that I'm not able to refer you to it. So I will like to gift you that masterclass. When you watch it, it will make sense to you about how to approach probation periods moving forward. And I apologise that I'm unable to refer you to a masterclass that could help you with this situation. But in order for me to make sure you don't waste your time, taking legal action is null and void. It's not. It's outside the realms of what you can do in this particular situation. I do not think we have any more time for another dilemma, so I'll leave any other dilemmas to next week. But what I will say is thank you so much for listening. I always love doing this podcast. Honestly, I love the fact that we're able to be in a safe space to share. I love that you guys all feel comfortable to share with me, and that you listen every Tuesday, and that you send me DMs. And, you know, I love the fact that you guys will send me DMs about like your takeaways. And I love that so much, because there is also a vulnerability in sharing a podcast every week in the hope that people really resonate with what you say. And for me, I always tap into what the ancestors want me to deliver, you know? So it's also equally comforting to me to hear the takeaways that you've taken. And everybody takes away different things. And sometimes people take away all the same things. And it's so nice to hear. So I just want to say thank you. And I appreciate each and every one of you for, number one, supporting the Toya Talks platform. Number two, listening. Number three, sharing. And most of all, congregating in a safe space for us to be able to be vulnerable. You know, I respect each and every one of you guys who send me dilemma episodes, because there's a vulnerability in being able to write these dilemmas, read it back to yourself and send it, and trust that I will do the best that I can to help you. And it's a responsibility I don't take lightly. So thank you. I am going to leave it there. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say, because I know you guys love it when I give you recommendations for shows. And The Real Housewives of Lagos, obviously I said that last week. I love it. Choma is my girl, and it's not just because she's Igbo, it's genuinely because I just think she's amazing. And Real Housewives of Atlanta, I'm starting to watch that again. I don't know how I feel about it. It's only been the first episode, so I'm sure we will divulge I'm sure we'll delve into some of those episodes as it continues to progress. And yeah, I'm going to leave it there until next week. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. If you have come here for the very first time and this is your very first episode, you're in for a treat, because we have so many other episodes that are equally as amazing and important to the Toya Talks podcast catalogue, if you like. It is a catalogue, isn't it? Yeah, it is. So make sure you look at the show notes and acquaint yourself with some of the previous episodes of the Toya Talks podcast. If you are an avid listener, just take the opportunity and re-listen to one or two or three or how many episodes. I think re-listening to episodes really does bring home some of the messaging, allows you maybe to explore some thought that you never thought of before, allows you to take notes and use a lot of what is discussed as transferable skills into your career. If you are on social media, then so am I. My personal Instagram page is Toya_Washington. I'm very active on there, especially on my Instagram stories. I'm trying to do a lot more lives. Follow me on Snapchat, which is the birthplace of Toya Talks, which is Toya Washington, all one word. On Twitter, Toya_W with the hashtag Toya Talks or Toya Talks Podcast. I am also on TikTok. Yes, honey, TikTok. It's Toya Washington, all one word. Of course, we have a YouTube channel. I need to upload a new vlog as well. Oh, God. I need to do some editing this week. My YouTube channel is called At Home with Toya. I've got so much content that I just need to transpose and edit and upload, but they are coming. It's just taking me some time with everything else I've got going on. But my priority this week is to continue to edit with a view to upload some new masterclasses. You guys are very much deserving. So thank you for your forgiveness. And it's an assumption, but I'm assuming you guys forgive me. And I'll see you all again next week for another brand new episode of the Toya Talks podcast. My name is Toya Washington, and you have been listening to the Toya Talks podcast.